Thank you very much, James. Good morning, everyone. I'm Ollie Spink. I'm the DSO Forecasting and Capacity Manager. You'll have to excuse me. I am recovering from COVID, so if I do have a coughing fit, I do apologise. But what I'm here to talk to you today about is how WPD as a business is helping our customers get to net zero. So if you're interested in an answer to the question of how's the electricity network going to manage with all of these low carbon technologies that we're forecasting are going to be connected, then hopefully I'll try and give you some insights during this session. So apologies if some of you have seen the next couple of slides. I think they're present throughout our business planning process, but I think they're quite useful to give some context. So this is really about, for us to achieve net zero and to facilitate net zero for our customers, we need to deliver a smart and flexible network. And I'm just going to pick up on a couple of points here. So local, was mentioned in our breakout room that there's been a shift towards a more decentralized generation mix for electricity supply, and a lot of that is now connected to our networks. And when we couple that with the projected growth in demand of people using electricity connected to our networks, we can see that the electricity network is going to become a lot more complex. We've already talked today about bidirectional power flow. So the traditional ways of designing and investing in networks may not necessarily deliver net zero in the most efficient and cost-effective way. So in order for us to actually deliver net zero in the most cost-effective way for our consumers, we need to deliver a smart and flexible network. And one final point there is around the little box there that says open. That's hopefully going to be a theme throughout this presentation that you'll pick up, which is really deeply rooted in our approach of trying to be open and transparent with stakeholders. Hopefully, be interested to hear about your thoughts on that in the breakout sessions. But ultimately, if we're able to deliver a smart and flexible network for our customers, then this should offer the lowest cost and most coordinated way of helping our customers reach their net zero targets. So if we, again, apologies if some of you have seen this slide before, but I think it's a useful segue to introduce some of the following topics. So some of you may have heard of the interaction between a distribution network operator and a distribution system operator. A distribution network operator does all the things that we currently do as a business very, very well. We keep the lights on, we're building a smart and flexible network. But the context of why a distribution system operator has become much more of interest in the last 5 or so years is the net zero challenge that we have as a country. So our latest forecasts that we have as WPD projects that energy consumption from customers connected to our network is going to roughly double in the next 20-25 years or so. And energy generation from distribution connected generation is going to roughly triple. And in order for us to deliver a network that's capable of delivering that for our customers, in the traditional way of building and developing network, we could just build a network that's 2 or 3 times as big. But that might not deliver our customers' ambitions at the lowest cost. Almost certainly won't. So instead, we need to look at more smart and flexible ways of designing our network and making sure that the capacity is sized effectively and future-proof to allow us to get to net zero in a economic and efficient way for customers. So that's where the role of the distribution system operator comes in. It's looking with a slightly longer term view around, are we developing the network in a coordinated and efficient way to help our customers reach net zero? And I think Ofgem have really recognised this, and in our upcoming RIIO-ED2 price control period, Ofgem identified some key roles of a distribution system operator. I'm not going to go through all these in depth, but they broadly cover long-term scenario-based planning and optioneering, making sure that the operation of our network is visible and available, the data on that is available to all. And then also making sure that the market opportunities are there for customers to access revenue streams to allow us to potentially procure flexibility services or facilitate more local energy markets to allow kind of more local operation of the network, as was mentioned a couple of slides ago for the smart and flexible networks. So if these roles are done well, I believe that it should help customers be able to connect what they want to our network, when they want it, and as I said, access revenue streams to allow them to shift or flex their energy consumption or generation at a time to actually benefit the operation of the network. Ofgem have kind of recognised these, and I think they've, as part of the draft determination, final determination process, they'll be looking at ways that our performance as a DSO can be measured throughout the next price control period. And again, if you do have any points in the breakout rooms that you could that you're interested in around how we should be measured on our performance, that'll be very, very interesting to hear. So thank you, Vince. So I'm really going to focus on role one of those three roles of a DSO in the next kind of the final bits of this talk. And that really focuses on the strategic planning process, so the planning and network development. I think some of you may have attended our stakeholder engagement session yesterday on connectability, and the context of a strategic planning process, because people may not be too aware of it, but this is becoming slightly more apparent with some of the recent changes that Ofgem are making in how customer contributions towards reinforcement costs are becoming a lot more socialized. And what this does is it allows distribution network operators like WPD more ability to, I suppose, invest ahead of need and invest in a more strategic way to allow us to develop our networks. And over the last 7 years or so, WPD have put in a process, a strategic planning process, that we believe this more kind of proactive approach to planning, it allows us to be more open and demonstrate to our stakeholders, and Ofgem being one of them, that we know what the needs of our customers are going to be now and in the future, how that can affect the operation of our network, and then also when we do find a problem, that we know what is the most cost-effective way of solving that problem. So just going through those three kind of boxes there is kind of the process, and this hopefully will answer the question of how do we make sure that the development of our network is suitable for the net zero ambitions of our customers. Step one there, forecasting. So WPD have put a process in place called the distribution future energy scenarios. And what that's trying to do is work out how many customers are going to be connected to our network in future, what technologies are they going to have, and what is it going to look like on our network in terms of a megawatts and megabars and kind of the units we need to use for electrical analysis. What is our network? What is the usage of our network going to look like in the future, basically? Step two, which is called the network impact assessment, or the document for it is called the network development plan. That takes these forecasts, overlays them onto a model of our network, does some analysis and works out, in essence, what could break and when. So where are the areas of our network that we're expecting to see constraints appear in the future if the projected growth is to materialize. And then the final step there is optioneering. So once we've identified a problem or a deficiency in our network, what is the most cost-effective way of solving that problem in the medium term? So is it just let's change the assets for bigger ones straight away, or are there customers connected to that network that would be willing to offer us flexibility services to allow us to defer that reinforcement to a little bit later on down the line, where it's a more cost-effective time to reinforce? I should just note that this strategic planning process covers what we call our extra high voltage networks. So that's everything from the point that we take a supply from the transmission network down through our 132 kV network, and also our 66 and 33 kV kilovolt network down to kind of the primary substation level. And the reason that we focused on these voltage levels is because the constraints that we find, they tend to be the ones that are most expensive, and also the ones that take the longest time to fix, basically. So those are the ones where we need a bit more foresight of what we think is going to happen in the future. So Ofgem have recognised this, and the middle one of these boxes in particular is now a condition of our licence. So this process has become quite entrenched over the last 7 years or so, and it's now something that we have to do every year and every other year. And hopefully, as I said, by doing that, we feel that it allows us to demonstrate to our customers that we know what's going to happen, we know what could happen, and we're ready for it as and when it will happen. So just going to go into a couple of key points around our strategic planning process, and hopefully this will become clear in the next couple of minutes or so. But there's a few kind of key points that I'd like to bring up. So one of them is a common scenario framework. So we use a set of scenarios which aims to cover the level of uncertainty that there is with the net zero transition for the UK. And the reason that it's common across all electricity distribution network operators is so that when someone wants to look at a national level, they can add up the forecasts of all of the distribution network operators and then compare these against national level targets to work out actually are distribution network operators forecasting and investing in their network sufficiently to allow the UK as a whole to reach its net zero targets. So that's why a common scenario framework is used. It's to allow aggregation and comparison between different distribution network operators. Having said that, we do build our forecasts from the bottom up. So we have very detailed stakeholder input from all different stakeholder groups, and that's kind of been improved year on year to try and capture more of those. So it does allow for local variations of a net zero target or a decarbonisation target in certain areas. We're not just looking at what's going to happen for the UK in 2050. It's very much more a local variation on that. And then also the data that we publish, all of our assumptions and all of our data, it's openly available on our map. There's a DFES map interface there that you can see at the bottom right. We publish all of our data on our connected data portal in various suites of reports. I think there's a question in our breakout sessions to see what format people think this is most useful to them. And I'd be quite interested to hear about that. So if we move on, I'm going to introduce a similar but slightly different approach to planning strategically for net zero, and this is what is kind of regarded as local area energy planning. So this is a process for a local region to kind of develop an outline or master plan, which aims to reach any local or regional decarbonisation targets. I'll go through some of the key points of this, and I'd like you to kind of think back to the previous slide and see if you can see any similarities or differences between what WPD are currently doing and also what the local area energy planning kind of framework is currently. So some of the key points there. It's data driven, a local area energy plan, and it does need to use multiple scenarios. It's led by the local government rather than by the incumbent network, and it also relies quite heavily on stakeholder input. It does require to be costed fully, and also kind of consider the emissions of the whole energy system. So if emissions or a decarbonisation target is part of your target that you need to measure, then you need to account for emissions in your local area energy plan. And it also covers the whole energy system. So whilst electricity will play a big part in any net zero future, we also need to cover kind of gas networks, we need to cover hydrogen, heat networks, and so on and so forth. So a local area energy plan is more broad when it comes to a whole system, but it looks at a very kind of defined and local area. Having said that, I think the little box there on the right-hand side of the screen covers kind of the 9 key areas of a local area energy plan. And I think the boxes there that are highlighted in yellow are where our existing forecasting and strategic planning process encompasses either fully or in part all of those aspects of all of those boxes that are highlighted in yellow of those 9 of the local area energy plan. So there is quite a lot of overlap really in terms of what our strategic planning process is doing relative to the kind of local area energy planning framework. So I think if we move on to our last slide, hopefully that's given a bit of a quick whistle-stop tour around what WPD are doing as a business in terms of strategic planning, so that we make sure that we are ready for the increase in demand that we're expecting to see for low carbon technologies connected to our network. We feel that this allows us, oh, I almost got through without coughing. We feel that this allows us to be kind of quite clear and open with our stakeholders to say, look, this is what we think is going to happen. This is what we think the impact on our network could be, and this is where we would plan to invest as and when that growth is materialized. And I think that is a useful thing, and it could be used quite easily as part of a local area energy plan if it was kind of, I suppose, the offering that we have currently is presented in such a way that stakeholders would find most useful. So just introducing this last slide, there's a couple of kind of options here. Oh, sorry, one slide back, please, Vince. Thank you. So a couple of options here around how this strategic planning of electricity distribution networks should be led. So we have here an existing process that WPD do. It's mandatory. We have to do it every other year. It's free, and we think that if we tailor the results slightly a bit more to our local stakeholder needs, it could be used to perform the function of the electricity network planning part of a local area energy plan. I think that's our ultimate goal. I think that it requires some stakeholder input from yourselves as to how do we need to change what we offer to make that happen. But the alternative is we have this existing planning process, but instead what we do is we focus on the 124 local authorities within the WPD license areas, and we create a bespoke energy plan for each of those local areas. And what that does is it means that your particular local authority has a co-created with WPD and the other energy networks that are in that area, a local plan that then can be refreshed every kind of 3 to 5 years. So there's 2 slightly different ways of doing that. Should we offer our current process, which we have to do anyway, and just tailor the results of that in a way that means that stakeholders can kind of quite easily interpret and use the outputs as part of a wider local area energy planning process? Or should we go down the route of creating bespoke reports for each local authority area, bespoke local area energy plans, which does allow potentially some more tailored decarbonisation targets? But the risk of that is that you end up with, again, not thinking about things in a more whole system coordinated way. By planning one particular local authority by itself and identifying problems and identifying solutions to those problems, you haven't necessarily considered the growth of your adjacent or your neighbouring local authority area. So when we come to do the same exercise for the neighbouring local authority area, we could suggest a different solution to a problem that could be solved if we looked at both of these together in a more coordinated way. So it's, I describe it sometimes as whole system, but in a slightly different way, looking at it vertically rather than horizontally. So there's a couple of points there, and hopefully you've got some kind of meat on the bones to discuss the advantages and disadvantages of these in the breakout room discussions. I think there's also, some questions there, which should hopefully help facilitate discussions. But yeah, very interested to hear your thoughts. And I think that we're now happy to all go through to the breakout rooms.